You've been told your entire life that your thoughts are yours, that they emerge from your brain, shaped by your memories, experiences, beliefs, and emotions, that the ideas in your head belong to you and you alone. But what if that assumption is entirely wrong? This is not science fiction. This is not spiritual fluff. This is a perspective grounded in emerging neuroscience, quantum physics, and ancient esoteric systems. A rare angle, yes, but one that could entirely shift the way you experience yourself and the world around you. Your thoughts may not originate from inside your head. In fact, your brain might not be the source of thinking at all. It may be the processor, the filter, the selector, but not the creator. This means that your most brilliant ideas, your most inspired visions, your most profound intuitions, they may be transmissions from somewhere else. From a field of intelligence that exists beyond space and time. From a realm where all knowledge already exists, waiting to be tuned into. Now pause for a moment and let that settle. Because if it's true, then every assumption you've ever made about the limits of your potential must be reevaluated. Every failure to think your way out of a problem might not have been due to lack of intelligence, but lack of reception. You weren't blocked. You were tuned out. Throughout history, mystics, visionaries, prophets, and philosophers have spoken about a field of knowing. They've described experiences where knowledge flooded into them, not from memory, not from education, but from some higher place. They didn't generate these ideas. They received them. Today, cutting-edge scientists and researchers are beginning to echo those voices with startling alignment. The theory, thought is dimensional. It does not originate in the biological mass inside your skull. Thought is a non-local phenomenon, existing outside of you, independent of time and space. You are not the generator. You are the receiver. In this video, we're going to take you deep into this concept and show you how to reclaim your connection to non-local intelligence. Not just as a theory, but as a practical, empowering way of living and thinking. You'll learn how the brain functions like a tuning device, and how it can access frequencies of information that transcend logic, memory, or culture. You'll understand why your most brilliant insights seem to appear out of nowhere. Why artists talk about the muse, why inventors talk about breakthrough moments, and why so many people across the world have experienced thoughts that don't feel like they came from them. We'll examine the science behind this, how quantum mechanics and consciousness studies reveal the fluidity of space, time, and mind. You'll discover how to sharpen your internal antenna and access what some have called the universal stream of consciousness. From the concept of parallel realities to the mechanics of channeling, from the silence of deep intuition to the vibration of manifesting new outcomes, this is a full-spectrum journey into understanding thought as something beyond the brain. We will not be theorizing in abstraction. You'll get specific techniques to recognize, receive, and interpret dimensional thought. You'll learn how to tell the difference between mental noise and true signal. You'll be shown how to eliminate interference, ask dimensional questions, and ultimately reshape your life from a higher field of knowing. This isn't about believing in something mystical. It's about experiencing something profoundly real and reclaiming a level of intelligence that's always been available to you. You've just never been taught how to access it. Until now. Let's begin by breaking the biggest myth of all, that your brain is the origin of thought. The prevailing model of the human brain is outdated. For decades, the dominant belief has been that neurons fire in complex patterns, generating thoughts through chemical and electrical activity. That the brain is a kind of self-contained supercomputer, locked in a skull, isolated from everything else. But this is not the only model, and it may not be the most accurate. Think of this instead: the brain is more like a radio, a transceiver. It receives information from a field of consciousness that exists independently of your body. It then interprets and organizes that information through your identity, culture, emotions, and beliefs. The key idea here is this: your brain does not create thought. It receives thought. Thought exists outside of you. This is not just a poetic metaphor. The receiver model has been proposed by respected minds in the scientific community. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Sir John Eccles suggested that the brain acts more like a receiver of mental phenomena than a generator. He was not alone. The legendary inventor Nikola Tesla claimed that his ideas were transmitted to him from an external source. He described being merely a conduit. His words were clear: "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." Still not convinced? Let's look at the phenomenon of sudden insight, the eureka moment, the solution that appears fully formed. These moments aren't the result of linear, logical, step-by-step thought. They arrive instantly, like turning a dial and hitting a frequency. Now consider how radio works. The device doesn't produce the music. It captures the frequency that is already there. The signal exists whether the radio is on or off. Similarly, if the field of consciousness exists independently, then your brain merely allows you to interface with it. There's also emerging research in neuroscience that shows activity in the brain following a thought, rather than preceding it. Meaning, the thought comes first and then the brain reacts. This turns the conventional timeline upside down. Then there are documented cases of individuals with severely damaged or underdeveloped brains who still function with near-normal intelligence. One study published in The Lancet reported a man with only 5% of typical brain tissue. Yet he had a job, a family, and an IQ of 126. His thoughts existed, but by all known neuroscience, they shouldn't have. Unless the brain isn't the source. Unless it's just the receiver. This leads us to an intriguing possibility, that there are frequencies of thought all around us all the time. Ideas, inspirations, answers. These are not created in the mind. They exist in a vast field of dimensional intelligence. Your brain filters these based on your internal state, belief system, and mental clarity. Let's go deeper. Each thought frequency may correspond to a dimensional layer of consciousness. Just as light waves exist on a spectrum, from infrared to ultraviolet, thought may exist across dimensions, with each band carrying a different type of information. You may be picking up one narrow slice of that spectrum, simply because your mental dial is fixed by habit, trauma, culture, or belief. And if that's true, then tuning into higher frequencies becomes a matter of refining your perception, not generating new ideas. You don't create breakthrough thoughts. You clear the static so the broadcast comes through. This also means that different people tune into different parts of this dimensional field based on their alignment. A mystic may tune into archetypal truths. A scientist may tap into patterns and systems. An artist might receive beauty and form. None of them created these insights. They each received from their own frequency. Now let's tie this to daily life. Have you ever had the experience of thinking about someone moments before they call? Or feeling a sudden, unexplained knowing about something that then turns out to be true? These are not coincidences. They are transmissions. Your brain, at some level, picked up a frequency from the non-local field. The challenge isn't that we lack intelligence. It's that we've been using the wrong metaphor. We've assumed we must produce thoughts instead of tuning into them. So now the question becomes, how do you refine your tuning? How do you train your mind to stop chasing thoughts and start receiving higher ones? Next, we will explore the mechanics of this non-local transmission, how thought exists beyond time and space, and how quantum science supports this reality. Let's move forward with clarity, precision, and the readiness to receive what's already waiting. In the field, thought, when examined through the lens of classical biology, seems bound to the meat and matter of the brain. But when you look deeper at the smallest levels of nature, where particles act less like things and more like probabilities, you find a different story unfolding. Quantum physics disrupts every assumption we hold about locality, linearity, and causality. The closer you look, the more you realize that consciousness may be woven into the very fabric of the universe. Thought, therefore, may be less a product of your biology and more a behavior of the field you inhabit. Start with the basics. Particles at the quantum level don't have fixed locations. They exist in superpositions, many states at once, until observed. The act of observation collapses the wave function, forcing the particle into a specific state. This means that consciousness doesn't follow matter, it defines it. Now apply that principle to thought. If consciousness collapses probability into reality, then your thoughts might not just be mental echoes. They may be participatory tools of creation, forming your experience by interfacing with a deeper, non-local field. This field isn't hypothetical. It's measurable. Physicists have explored concepts like the quantum vacuum, zero-point field, and unified field theory. These are not vague metaphors. They are models describing how all things are connected beyond time and space. Within this field, information can move without traditional transfer. Entanglement proves it. Two particles that once interacted can influence each other instantaneously, even when separated by light years. The implication: there is a layer of reality where time and space have no influence. Everything is connected. Everything is one. Now reconsider the nature of thought. If entangled systems can share states across vast distances, then your mind might also be entangled with a greater field. You might be tapping into knowledge that exists far beyond your immediate environment, information that doesn't travel through neurons but is accessed instantly from a dimension beyond. Quantum biology is beginning to catch up. Researchers now propose that quantum effects occur inside biological systems, particularly in the brain. Microtubules inside neurons, long ignored, are now being studied as potential quantum processors. The brain, in this view, may be less of a classical machine and more of a quantum interface. In other words, it doesn't think the way we think it thinks. It operates on principles of resonance, coherence, and entanglement. It doesn't store thought. It tunes into it. This aligns with ancient metaphysical teachings. Cultures across the globe, from Egyptian to Vedic, Mayan to Taoist, speak of a universal mind or cosmic intelligence. A place where all thoughts, all possibilities, all truths already exist. You don't invent knowledge, you remember it. You don't produce thought, you receive it. Call it the Akasha, the field, the mind of God. The label doesn't matter. The mechanism is the same. If this is accurate, then thought must be viewed as information packets moving through dimensions. They exist outside the linear framework of time. You don't have to wait for an idea to evolve. You can access its full form instantly, if you're tuned to the right dimension. This explains the phenomenon of sudden knowing, when you receive a solution without a process. When something feels true before it's proven. These moments aren't anomalies. They are glimpses into how dimensional thought truly works. It also redefines intuition. Intuition isn't emotional guesswork. It's dimensional perception, your ability to resonate with information from a deeper layer of reality. The clearer your field, the cleaner your reception. Now let's consider the implications for innovation, creativity, and knowledge. Every major leap in human history, theories, inventions, philosophies, didn't emerge from step-by-step logic. They arrived in bursts, fully formed, often preceded by silence, frustration, or surrender. This pattern is not accidental. It's consistent with the tuning process. When logic exhausts itself, space opens. In that space, dimensional intelligence flows. This is why many breakthroughs occur in dreams, meditative states, or altered consciousness. When the rational mind quiets, the dimensional mind takes over. The frequencies shift. Access opens. You don't need to be a mystic or a scientist to experience this. The process can be learned. It starts by recognizing that your thoughts do not begin in your mind. They are accessed. And your job is not to force thinking, but to allow receiving. So how do you do this? You train yourself to operate outside of linearity. You stop trying to construct thoughts like blocks and instead become receptive to thoughts as waves. You align your awareness with the field rather than isolate your mind inside your skull. When you do this consistently, thought transforms. You begin accessing answers before asking questions. You start noticing that ideas land complete without effort. You feel less tension and more coherence. You stop chasing knowledge. You tune into knowing. Next, we will explore how to actually reach the universal stream of consciousness, how to quiet your mental noise and access the source of thought itself. You think thousands of thoughts a day. Most of them are repetitive, conditioned, and reactive. They arise not from original insight, but from your psychological past, echoes of your upbringing, environment, and mental habits. Now ask yourself, how many of those thoughts are truly yours? How many come from a deeper place untouched by fear, bias, or programming? There is a stream, a current of intelligence that exists beyond your personal mind. It flows through all things, contains pure potential. This is where original thought resides. This stream is not poetic metaphor. It is the energetic substrate beneath form, movement, and time. Every culture has acknowledged its presence. Some call it the Tao. Others refer to it as source, the all, or the field of potential. Whatever the name, it functions the same way, as a broadcast of information waiting to be received. Accessing this stream requires silence, not external quiet, but internal stillness. The personal mind, filled with judgments, memories, worries, and loops, must be suspended, not eliminated, just set aside. This silence isn't emptiness. It's clarity. It's the moment when the fog of thought lifts, and something more refined can be heard. To reach this level, begin by examining the architecture of your inner world. Identify the filters, recognize the inherited beliefs, see the emotional charges that distort your perception. Because every unprocessed emotion, every rigid belief, acts as static. And static blocks reception. Next, practice the discipline of stillness. Not just meditation, but focused receptivity. This means sitting with the intention of listening, not thinking. You're not trying to achieve insight. You're waiting to receive insight. Let the mind slow. Let the breath deepen. Let the observer in you take the front seat. You can also refine your tuning through intention. Set a clear question or desire for understanding, then let go. The answer will not come from reasoning. It will appear when you're quiet enough to hear it. This is not passive. It's precision listening, receptive alertness. Your inner attention becomes the dial, and the stream responds accordingly. Another powerful access point is pattern recognition. The stream often speaks in archetypes, symbols, and sudden connections. These may arise through dreams, synchronicities, or seemingly random thoughts. Do not dismiss them. Pay attention. Keep a record. These are transmissions breaking through. Genius operates in this space. It does not belong to individuals. It moves through them. Artists, philosophers, visionaries, those who access the stream aren't special. They are tuned. And you can tune the same way. But beware of imitation. The personal mind loves to mimic. It will hear a truth and immediately try to claim it. This blocks original reception. Your goal is not to impress, analyze, or argue. It is to listen with full presence, with no desire to control. This is difficult at first. The mind will resist silence. It will demand stimulation, distraction, judgment. But keep returning to the still point. Over time, the static fades. The transmission sharpens. You begin to notice thoughts that feel different. They carry clarity, precision. They arrive whole. These are thoughts from the stream. Dimensional transmissions. As you access the stream more frequently, your external life shifts. You start to experience coherence, flow. You find that decisions become easier. Timing becomes perfect. Answers arrive before questions fully form. This is not magic. It's mechanics. The field responds to clarity. The clearer you are, the more refined the thoughts you access. You also become immune to noise. You stop chasing information. You stop comparing paths. You stop fearing the unknown. Why? Because you are connected to the source of all knowing. This connection becomes your authority, your compass, your guide. This is not philosophy. This is structure. Thought is not a byproduct of mental process. It is an energetic frequency. And when you stop thinking and start tuning, you access dimensions beyond intellect. Next, we will explore how the thoughts you tune into align with alternate versions of you, how thought literally shapes reality by selecting from parallel timelines. Are you ready to shift dimensions by shifting the frequency of your thinking? Let's continue. Most people believe they live in one reality. the fixed timeline, one version of themselves, operating through a linear progression of events. But reality may not be as solid as it appears. It may be more fluid, shaped and reshaped constantly by the frequencies of thought we tune into. This is not fantasy. It is grounded in the principles of quantum theory, consciousness research, and metaphysical science. The idea is simple yet profound. Every thought doesn't just express your state of mind. It selects a version of reality. You don't move through time. You move through possibilities. Let's clarify. A thought is not just a personal mental event. It's a vibration, a signature frequency, and that frequency resonates with a specific timeline, a specific version of your life where that thought is true. Every thought aligns you. Every belief anchors you. Every emotion reinforces the signal. This means that your current reality is the echo of your dominant thought frequency. Change the signal, and the version of you that shows up changes with it. This is where the concept of parallel realities becomes more than theory. Imagine infinite versions of you, each existing right now, each experiencing life through a different lens. In one version, you're thriving. In another, you're stuck. In another, you've already achieved what you're now striving for. These aren't fantasies. They're fully formed realities, accessible through vibrational match. So what determines which version you experience? Your thought frequency. Not just what you want to believe, but what you consistently think, feel, and expect. Your internal state sends out a signal. That signal resonates with a version of reality already vibrating at that frequency. This makes thought far more powerful than most people realize. Thought is not commentary, it's causality. You're not thinking about reality. You're selecting it. Your brain, acting as a receiver, tunes into the dimension where the thought is true. And once you're tuned in, your experience begins to reflect that dimension's structure, events, and outcomes. Now let's go deeper. Have you ever noticed how your entire world seems to shift when your mood changes? Not just how you feel, but how people treat you, what opportunities show up, even how you interpret events. This is because you've tuned into a different frequency. And that frequency isn't just emotional, it's dimensional. The more coherent your thought pattern, the more stable the reality you enter. This helps explain why changes often seem to occur in sudden leaps rather than gradual evolution. Because shifts in reality are not incremental, they are dimensional. You don't move slowly into the next version of your life. You align with it through frequency, and then it appears. This also clarifies why certain affirmations don't work. If your words and your core vibration are mismatched, there is no shift. You're sending out two signals at once, canceling the transmission. To shift realities, your thoughts, emotions, and expectations must broadcast the same frequency. Now let's explore how this connects with choice. Every moment you have access to multiple timelines. Your thoughts determine which one you step into. This means you're not just living life, you're navigating it. You are the tuner. The field responds, but it cannot override your signal. Here's where this becomes transformative. If you know how to shift your thought frequency deliberately, you can move into a new reality without external effort. You don't need to manipulate conditions. You need to shift the version of you that's experiencing them. So how do you do this? Begin by identifying your dominant frequency. What thoughts do you repeat the most? What emotions do they produce? What expectations do they reinforce? This combination forms your current reality blueprint. Next, design a new frequency. Not just new affirmations, but a new inner signature. Begin thinking from the version of you who already lives the life you desire. Not hoping for it. Not chasing it. Thinking from it. This is alignment. This is signal precision. And this is how parallel realities become personal realities. It's essential to understand this isn't wishful thinking. The universe doesn't respond to fantasy, it responds to resonance. You must become the signal, fully, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally. This is why partial shifts don't yield full change. Half signals produce fragmented results. The field is exact. You may not see the shift instantly, but you will feel it. Something will begin to change in your timing, your intuition, your interactions. Doors open, paths clear. You're no longer forcing outcomes. You're stepping into prepared space. And that space was always there, waiting for your frequency to match. This also means that so-called failure is not a result of lack. It's often a mismatch in signal. You were tuned to the wrong frequency, experiencing the version of reality that matched your thoughts, no matter how undesired it was. Change the signal. Change the experience. Next, we explore the mechanics of receiving thought from outside the personal mind. What happens when ideas arrive fully formed, as if from nowhere? Because sometimes they actually do. Let's continue. Every now and then, you think something that seems to come out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like an idea you created. It feels like something that landed. Whole, immediate, perfectly timed. It may solve a problem, inspire a new direction, reveal something you never considered. You didn't reason your way to it. You received it. This experience has a name: channeling. Channeling is not performance art. It's not about theatrics or altered voices. At its core, it is the ability to receive coherent streams of intelligence from a source beyond the local mind. This source may be interpreted in various ways: higher self, collective unconscious, archetypal field, cosmic mind, even other dimensional beings. But the label is less important than the mechanism. Channeling is reception, thought as transmission, and the receiver is you. Let's strip away mysticism. When you are deeply present, focused but relaxed, you enter a state where the personal ego takes a backseat. In that space, thought flows without friction. You're not thinking in the traditional sense. You're allowing thought to come through. This is the ideal state for channeling. A blend of high clarity and zero resistance. The greatest thinkers, artists, and innovators describe this. They speak of ideas arriving complete, of working in a trance-like state, of feeling that they were guided, not generating. These are channeling states, whether labeled that way or not. What's happening here is a bypass of the egoic filter. When you stop trying to control the flow, you become open to streams of intelligence that originate in higher dimensional bandwidths. Let's be clear. This isn't fantasy. This is vibrational access. When you reach a certain frequency of stillness and alignment, your brain, functioning as a receiver, picks up coherent transmissions from the non-local field. These thoughts carry a different quality. They are often faster, more structured, and deeply resonant. You'll know them when they arrive. But how do you distinguish between imagination, intuition, and authentic transmission? Imagination is shaped by memory. Intuition is shaped by subtle knowing. Transmission is often clear, specific, and neutral. It doesn't argue. It doesn't convince. It just is. You feel the truth of it without needing proof. To channel well, grounding is essential. You must be rooted in your body, fully present, with a calm nervous system. Otherwise, you risk distortion. Anxiety creates static. Eagerness creates interference. The field rewards still precision, not chaotic grabbing. So still the mind. Set the intention. Ask clearly. Then wait. Don't chase. Let the thought arrive. It may come as a sentence, a vision, a knowing. It may arrive as a complete model. When it comes, trust it. Don't immediately judge. Let it unfold. The mind will want to dissect. But the key to deep reception is allowing the transmission to complete before you analyze it. You're not debating the thought. You're letting it speak. There are different types of transmissions. Some are personal guidance meant just for you. Others are archetypal truths that apply across time and space. Some feel distinctly other, as if coming from a source with its own identity. Don't get lost in categorizing. Focus on the clarity of the signal. There are ways to enhance your receptivity. Breath work, energy clearing, high coherence states, time in nature, creative movement, journaling with an open channel. These aren't rituals, they're frequency aligners. Each one tunes your receiver. Channeling does not make you special. Everyone has the capacity. The only difference is openness. The more you clear distortion and ego attachment, the more freely the current flows. But channeling also requires discernment. Not every thought that enters your awareness is truth. Some are projections. Some are fragments. Your role is to refine the signal. Use presence as your filter. Clarity in, clarity out. Over time, the relationship between you and this non-local stream becomes symbiotic. You begin to trust it. It responds to your readiness. You stop forcing thoughts and begin flowing with them. And the more you allow, the more potent the transmissions become. You're not just receiving for yourself. You become a transmitter as well. You broadcast new thoughts into the field, adding clarity, creativity, and consciousness to the greater human signal. Your mind becomes a bridge, not an origin, a conduit. Next, we explore the true power of stillness, not as an escape, but as the precise gateway to higher dimensional intelligence. Because silence is not absence, it's access. Let's go deeper. Most people fear silence. Not the quiet around them, but the quiet inside. A silence that exposes what lies beneath the noise. A space that the thinking mind cannot dominate. This silence is uncomfortable to the untrained. But to the aligned, it's the exact space where dimensional intelligence starts to flow. Silence is not void. It's access. It's the open sky behind the clouds of thought. The clear signal beneath the static. If you're seeking to connect to non-local intelligence, silence isn't optional, it's foundational. Let's be clear. The noise in your head is not thinking. It's recycling. Loops of the past masquerading as new thought. Worry, judgment, analysis, projection. None of this leads to real insight. It's friction. And friction blocks reception. You can't receive the clear transmission of higher intelligence if you're full of static. That static is the uncontrolled mind. A mind that never stops speaking long enough to hear. True silence isn't just lack of sound. It's stillness of intention. An inner quiet where the personal self pauses, and something deeper begins to emerge. In this silence, you're not empty. You're receptive. You're tuned. This is why nearly every ancient tradition emphasized some form of silence, stillness, or meditation. They weren't techniques for relaxation. They were technologies of connection. Silence wasn't a retreat from thought. It was the condition for receiving real thought. Dimensional thought. Now consider the states your mind moves through. Beta for normal waking thought, alpha for relaxed focus, theta for deep meditation, and delta for pure unconscious processing. Each of these brainwave states represents a different level of access. The deeper the state, the more coherent the signal. The slower the brainwave, the higher the intelligence you can access. Most people operate in beta, fast, surface level, scattered. That state is great for tasks, but terrible for connection. It's too loud, too shallow, too full of itself. Dimensional thought cannot penetrate that pace. It waits for stillness. This is why silence must be cultivated deliberately, not occasionally, not only in crisis, but regularly and with reverence. So how do you cultivate true inner silence? Start by understanding that silence isn't achieved through effort. It's revealed through surrender. The more you try to silence your mind, the louder it becomes. The key is attention, total, present, unattached attention. Noticing without reacting. Observing without needing to label. You sit. You breathe. You allow. You let thoughts pass like clouds without grabbing any of them. You do not chase stillness, you hold space for it to emerge. And it will. At first in brief moments. Then longer. Then deeper. And in that deepening, you'll notice something surprising. Thoughts begin to arrive differently. They're no longer repetitive. They're no longer noisy. They're clear, whole, refined. They don't argue or doubt. They just appear, complete. These are dimensional thoughts. They didn't arise from memory, they came through the field. And the moment you react to them, try to dissect or own them, they vanish. Because this level of thought doesn't survive ego. It only responds to silence. The mind must remain quiet even after receiving. It must allow the download to finish. It must resist the temptation to immediately define or explain. There's a rhythm to this reception, and silence is the container that holds the rhythm intact. Over time, this silence becomes a familiar friend. It's no longer empty, it's alive, pregnant with knowing. You begin to crave it, not avoid it, because you recognize it as your link to something real. You stop needing answers from outside. You stop grasping for validation. You have access, constantly, silently. Now let's address resistance. Your personal mind will try to interrupt this process. It will scream for stimulation. It will panic when not fed. This is expected. It's a sign that your identity is detaching from noise. Let it scream. Don't resist. Don't fight. Let it run until it burns itself out. Eventually, it will, because the mind doesn't control you unless you keep feeding it attention. Attention is the currency of consciousness. What you give it to grows. In silence, you take that currency back. You stop investing in noise. You stop funding illusions. You become sovereign over your awareness. And from that sovereignty, access opens. Insight flows. Truth speaks. Not in thunder, in stillness. This silence doesn't mean disengagement. You can live, work, love, create, all from this space. In fact, everything becomes clearer, faster, smoother. You're no longer reacting. You're responding from a higher state. You speak less but say more. You do less but accomplish more. You become a channel, not a reactor. Stillness becomes your default, not your escape. You carry silence into conversations, into work, into conflict, into creation. And through this silent baseline, you remain attuned to dimensional thought no matter what's happening externally. This is mastery. Next, we'll explore how to discern between the mind and thought itself, how knowing the difference can save your clarity and ultimately your sanity. Let's continue. There is a trap most fall into, believing that every thought that enters the mind is meaningful, relevant, or true. That trap is responsible for confusion, fear, anxiety, indecision, and identity crisis. The moment you believe every thought is yours, you've already lost clarity. You are not your thoughts, and more importantly, you are not your mind. These two are different. Thought is the frequency. Mind is the filter. Confusing them leads to distortion. Knowing the difference liberates you. Let's clarify the distinction. Thought is dimensional. It exists independently. It flows. It arrives. It broadcasts from the field. The mind is personal. It is shaped by identity, memory, trauma, culture, ego, fear, expectation. It is a lens colored and shaped over time. It doesn't create thought. It filters it, distorts it, sometimes blocks it completely. Here's the critical point. Just because a thought appears in your awareness doesn't mean it originated from your true intelligence. It may be a memory echo, a cultural imprint, a fear-based projection, or even a collective signal not meant for you. Without discernment, you take it all personally. You assume it's you. That assumption creates suffering. So how do you discern? Start by recognizing the signature of a dimensional thought. It's calm, clear, neutral. It doesn't panic. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need validation. It just appears. When you receive such thoughts, you feel expanded, clear, anchored. Now contrast that with thoughts from the ego mind. They're fast, loud, reactive, often obsessive. They repeat. They pull you into loops. They create confusion or urgency. These are not from the field. They're from your psychological past. Another way to discern is by noticing how the thought feels in your body. Dimensional thought settles you. Even when the message is serious, you feel aligned. Mind-based thought often produces tension. Tight chest, shallow breath, clenched gut. Your body reacts because it senses distortion. Trust that signal. The body doesn't lie. Now let's talk about interference. Your mind is not a closed system. It's porous. It picks up signals from your environment, other people, even collective fields of thought. This means not every thought in your mind belongs to you. Many are borrowed, absorbed, inherited. You're carrying noise that doesn't reflect your true self. This mental clutter dilutes your signal and distorts your choices. You think you're making a decision, but it's actually a reaction. You think it's intuition, but it's conditioning. The only solution is discernment. You must learn to separate the field from the filter. You must recognize what arises from clarity versus what arises from programming. And here's the key. The mind is loud. The field is quiet. The mind seeks attention. The field offers truth. You must train your awareness to value truth over noise, presence over stimulation. This leads to a practice. Observe your thoughts without attaching to them. Let them appear. Name them. Question them. Where did they come from? Who benefits if you believe them? What emotion do they produce? This process reveals origin. Once you know the source, you know the signal strength. Eventually, a new layer of awareness develops. You begin to see the mind as a tool, not a master. You use it when needed, but you no longer confuse it with identity. This shift is powerful. It gives you choice. You stop reacting to every mental impulse. You start selecting which thoughts you allow to shape your reality. You reclaim authorship. And in doing so, you liberate your consciousness from the false assumption that all thoughts are valid. They are not. Only clear thought, resonant thought, dimensional thought, only those deserve your attention. Everything else is static. Now, this doesn't mean you attack the mind. It's not your enemy. It's a tool. But tools must be cleaned, sharpened, and sometimes put down. You cannot receive high-frequency transmissions with a chaotic mind. You must clear it, calm it, refine it. Silence helps. Breath helps. Presence helps. But the most powerful practice is observation without identification. You watch. You don't believe. You choose. And choice is power. Over time, the gap between thought and awareness expands. You gain space. In that space, your intelligence emerges. Not conditioned. Not emotional. Not reactive. Dimensional. Next, we'll explore how your body plays a role in this process, how your physical system acts as an antenna for higher intelligence, and how to strengthen your somatic receptivity. Let's continue. Thought is often treated as a function of the mind alone. But if you want to operate as a receiver of dimensional intelligence, you need to involve more than just your head. Your entire body plays a role in perception. Your biology is not just animated flesh. It's a sensitive antenna. This antenna doesn't just pick up sensations. It reads frequencies. It registers truth. It detects distortion. And when properly tuned, your body becomes the most accurate indicator of resonance available to you. Your body can feel what your mind can't understand. That's not weakness. That's signal intelligence. Consider how your body responds before your mind catches up. You enter a room and feel tension before a single word is spoken. You meet someone and feel off balance before any facts are revealed. You hear a message and feel chills, though you don't know why. These are not coincidences. This is bioresonance. Your body is processing information from the field, faster than your mind, deeper than your logic. Now imagine strengthening that system, not numbing it, not ignoring it, honoring it. This is the path to embodiment, not as a concept, but as an interface. You're not thinking about thought. You're physically receiving it. Start with posture. The way you hold your spine affects signal flow. An open chest, a balanced neck, a grounded base. These aren't just aesthetic. They determine clarity. Collapsed body closes the channel. An aligned structure becomes a conduit. When your body is open, the stream flows more easily. You're not just thinking, you're receiving through tissue, breath, fascia, and nervous system. Now look at breath. Breath isn't just oxygen delivery. It's signal modulation. Slow, coherent breathing balances the nervous system and creates a state of physiological alignment. This alignment allows for more precise reception. Rushed breath scatters thought. Calm breath sharpens it. Your nervous system is the conductor. It decides whether you're in survival mode or receptivity mode. Fight or flight shuts down higher access. You cannot receive coherent intelligence while bracing for danger. This is why grounding practices are essential. They're not spiritual hobbies, they're technical recalibrations. The more regulated your system, the clearer the reception. This includes diet, movement, sleep, hydration. Every element of physical health contributes to signal quality. Because when your body is toxic, inflamed, or numb, your antenna gets distorted. You start mistaking static for signal. You interpret anxiety as intuition. You project fear instead of receiving truth. Now bring in movement. Certain patterns, flowing, intuitive, somatic, help clear blocked energy and realign the antenna. This isn't about exercise. It's about energetic hygiene. Movement clears the clutter and sharpens the frequency. Your body literally recalibrates with every conscious step, every breath-led stretch, every grounded pause. So how do you know when your body is in signal? You feel a state of internal coherence. Heart rate, breath, and thoughts move in harmony. Emotions settle. Awareness expands. Ideas arrive whole. You're not thinking through effort. You're receiving through openness. This is your signal baseline. Contrast this with when the signal is off. Your body contracts. Your thoughts race. Your chest tightens. Your breath shortens. Nothing feels right even when it looks right on paper. This is not neurosis. It's biological intelligence alerting you to a mismatch. Honor that message. The more you trust your body's knowing, the more refined your intuition becomes. Not because you're guessing, but because you're accurately reading signal through your form. This is embodiment in its truest form. Thought not just arriving in your mind, but flowing through your system. You may even begin to notice where in your body certain kinds of thoughts register. Some arrive as pressure in the head, others as lightness in the chest, some in the gut, others as a full body resonance. Pay attention to these patterns. Your body has a language. Learn it. You can also create physical anchors for dimensional access. Certain postures, breathing rhythms, or hand placements can become familiar gateways. The more you pair body with awareness, the more you train yourself to enter signal-ready states on demand. The field responds to embodied precision. Here's the deeper truth. Dimensional intelligence isn't something you reach for. It's something you align with. And alignment is not just mental, it's full spectrum. You are not a brain on a stick. You are a symphonic receiver. Every part of you plays a role. When that symphony is coherent, you don't need to think harder. You simply listen more clearly. Next, we'll explore how the right kind of question can act as a tuning fork, opening direct access to the stream of non-local thought. Let's continue. Most people ask questions to seek information. But in dimensional thinking, a question is more than inquiry. It's a trigger, a key, a frequency signal. The right question asked with the right intention doesn't just lead to answers. It opens portals. Questions, in this sense, are invitations to the field. Each one carries a vibrational signature. That signature determines what level of thought responds. Low-frequency questions yield confusion. High-frequency questions unlock clarity. So how do you know the difference? A low-frequency question is rooted in lack. It begins with fear, doubt, self-judgment, or desperation. It sounds like, why is this always happening to me? What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? These questions don't activate dimensional intelligence. They loop your awareness back into ego. They don't open, they constrict. The result? Recycled thoughts, shallow insights, mental fog. High-frequency questions are rooted in presence, curiosity, and openness. They don't seek validation, they invite revelation. They sound like, what am I not seeing that's already here? What is trying to emerge through me? What version of me already has this answer? These questions don't reach, they align. The field responds to alignment. It doesn't judge. It doesn't punish. It matches. Ask a coherent question, and a coherent answer begins to form. Not always as words, sometimes as images, sometimes as sudden knowing, sometimes through synchronicities, but always with clarity. To master this process, you must slow down, get clear, and choose your questions carefully. Don't throw questions into the void and hope something sticks. Craft them with precision. Tune them like instruments. Ask not just from your mind, but from your whole being. Your emotional tone is part of the question. Your physical state is part of the question. Your willingness to receive is part of the question. Start with this. Ask only when you're ready to receive the real answer. Not the convenient one. Not the ego-safe one. The actual truth. This alone will eliminate most of the noise. The field doesn't waste energy on half-open portals. When you ask from full presence, you'll feel something open inside you. Not emotionally, but energetically. A space clears. A shift occurs. It might feel like silence. That silence is not nothing. That silence is the download beginning. Be patient. Don't rush to interpret. Wait. Let the answer form. Let it come in its own language. Sometimes the response is instantaneous. Sometimes it arrives in layers. Sometimes it emerges as clarity over the next few hours or days. Don't grip. Don't analyze too fast. The field delivers in alignment with your readiness, not your urgency. Here are some examples of dimensional questions that align you to the field. What version of me already lives this truth? What frequency must I tune to in order to receive this insight clearly? What am I not asking that would shift everything? What belief must be released for this signal to come through? Each of these is a calibrator. Not just language, but intention encoded in vibration. Journaling is a powerful way to solidify this process. Don't just write the question. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Then let your hand move. Not from your thoughts, but from reception. You're not journaling for clarity. You're channeling clarity onto the page. This practice trains your nervous system to associate stillness with insight. Over time, you'll ask fewer questions, but better ones. And the answers will come faster, cleaner, deeper. Eventually, the gap between question and answer will collapse. You'll ask and know in the same moment. This is the mark of alignment. You're no longer reaching. You're receiving in real time, not because you've mastered information, but because you've mastered how to ask. The question, asked properly, is the answer. Next, we explore how to use this intelligence to reshape physical reality. How thought, once aligned with the field, becomes the active force of creation. Let's move forward. Most people try to manifest their desires by thinking harder. They use affirmations, vision boards, scripting, mechanical repetition dressed up as intention. But repetition is not resonance. And manifestation is not wish-making. It's frequency alignment. You don't create from the surface of your mind. You create from the field you're tuned into. And when you align your thought with dimensional intelligence, you don't force reality to change. You select the version where your outcome already exists. This is not magic. It's mechanics. It's structure. The field does not respond to words. It responds to signal. Your life is not shaped by what you want. It's shaped by what you're broadcasting. And your broadcast is determined by your dominant vibration, not your momentary intention. Let's go deeper. Thought, when aligned with dimensional intelligence, is not about problem solving. It's about resonance with what already is. You are not building a reality. You are shifting into one that is already encoded in the field. Every possible version of your life already exists. Every outcome, every opportunity, every breakthrough, it's already in the matrix. Your job is not to invent it. Your job is to match it. This reframes the entire manifestation conversation. Stop asking, how do I get it? Start asking, who am I being that receives it effortlessly? That's alignment. Now look at where most people get stuck. They fixate on outcomes. They obsess over timing. They force affirmations without changing the frequency beneath their words. This leads to tension, frustration, Inconsistency. Why? Because the field doesn't respond to force. It responds to coherence. If your desire and your identity are out of sync, your signal is fragmented. And fragmented signals cannot lock onto stable timelines. So what does it mean to manifest from the field? It means dropping out of effort and stepping into resonance. It means allowing dimensional thought, not egoic desire, to guide your creation. It means aligning your entire system, thoughts, feelings, actions, presence, with the version of reality you wish to experience. You become the portal, not the pursuer. Let's break this down practically. First, define the frequency of the desired reality, not the outcome itself, but the essence of it. Is it abundance, expansion, freedom, love, authority? This becomes your energetic signature. Everything you do, say, think, and feel must reinforce this vibration, not contradict it. If you want abundance but feel lack, you're canceling the signal. If you want clarity but think in loops, you're scattering the transmission. If you want love but act from fear, the field reflects fear, not desire. Next, locate and clear the distortions. What beliefs, patterns, or emotional imprints are vibrating against your intended frequency? These aren't obstacles. They are misalignments. You don't need to fight them. You need to stop feeding them. Every time you act from old programming, you reaffirm the version of reality you say you want to leave. Stop reinforcing what you're trying to change. Now replace force with trust. When you are in resonance, you don't chase outcomes. You observe their arrival. You take aligned action, but never from panic. Never from proving. Never from pressure. Creation becomes participation with the field, not manipulation of it. You also stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for signs before you believe. You move as if it's already done. Because in the field, it is. Your belief doesn't make it real. Your alignment makes it accessible. This is not pretending. This is precision. There will be moments where the external reality lags behind the internal shift. That's not failure. That's latency. The field always delivers, but it does so in ways that maintain coherence. You must remain consistent in signal, especially when appearances contradict your desired outcome. This is the test of embodiment. Will you hold the frequency when nothing outside you confirms it? The longer you hold, the stronger the pull. The field begins to reshape circumstances, draw resources, restructure probabilities, all in service to the version you've already tuned into. You're not pushing. You're magnetizing. You're not willing things into being. You're aligning with what already is. Now look at action. Aligned action is not about doing more. It's about doing the right thing from the right frequency. One clean action from coherence is more effective than 100 steps taken from fear. This is intelligent manifestation. Not hustle. Not grind. Not passive hoping. Focused resonance. Embodied fully. You also become less attached to outcomes. Not because you don't care, but because you know the outcome is a natural extension of alignment. You focus on tuning, not chasing. And the field delivers accordingly. Over time, your life becomes proof of this principle. Things happen with less resistance. Synchronicity becomes normal. Flow becomes standard. You stop struggling for clarity. You become clarity. You stop trying to manifest. You start living in the manifested version. Next, we uncover what's blocking so many from accessing this clean signal, how low-frequency thought pollution creates interference, and how to clear it permanently. Let's continue. Your system is intelligent. Your thoughts are powerful. Your connection to the field is real. But none of that matters if your signal is full of static. Interference isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, familiar, unquestioned. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because if you don't know you're receiving noise, you can't correct your frequency. You'll think the distortion is your truth. And that misalignment sabotages your clarity, your creativity, and your ability to manifest. So what exactly is interference? It's anything that distorts your signal. Anything that introduces noise into your reception. Anything that clouds your access to dimensional intelligence. can be internal, like trauma, belief loops, suppressed emotion, or external, like media saturation, toxic environments, energetic cords. Both have the same effect. They scramble your tuning. Let's start with internal interference. Unprocessed emotion stores in the body and distorts the signal. Every unresolved fear, guilt, shame, or grief vibrates at a frequency that clashes with your intended alignment. It doesn't just affect how you feel. It alters what you're able to receive. This is why clearing isn't optional. It's operational. You must learn to identify your energetic residue. What emotional signatures are you still carrying? Where do they live in your body? How do they influence your choices? Awareness is step one. Then comes release. This doesn't mean rehashing trauma endlessly. It means somatic release. Breath, movement, stillness, space. Let the charge move out. Let the pattern uncoil. Don't force it. Don't judge it. Let it leave. Now look at belief systems. Many of your core beliefs were never chosen. They were absorbed, downloaded in childhood, school, culture, religion. Each belief is a filter, and every filter bends the signal. You think you're receiving truth, but you're receiving truth bent through distortion. Unless you question the filter, you'll keep mistaking the interference for intelligence. Clearing beliefs means bringing them into conscious awareness and testing them against the field. Not through logic, but through alignment. Ask, does this belief expand or contract my energy? Ask, is this belief coherent with my desired frequency? Ask, did I choose this, or did I inherit it? If it doesn't serve the signal, let it go. Now shift to external interference. Your environment is full of frequencies. Some match your intention, others cancel it. Everything you consume, news, social media, conversations, either reinforces your alignment or fractures it. You must protect your field. You must curate your input. You wouldn't tune a high-frequency antenna and then pour acid on the wires. Yet that's what most do every day, by staying immersed in emotional noise and cultural static. Clearing your environment isn't asceticism, it's precision. It's recognizing that every sound, word, image, and presence is either noise or signal. Make your space match your frequency. Don't negotiate. Energetic cords are another form of interference. These are invisible ties to people, events, or identities that no longer serve your alignment. They pull your energy backward. They reintroduce patterns you've outgrown. You feel them as energetic fatigue, sudden mood drops, confusion without cause. These are not random. They are signatures of interference. To clear them, you must reclaim your energy. Declare separation. Use your voice, your breath, your movement, not from fear, but from sovereignty. Now address psychic static, thoughts, entities, or group fields that aren't yours but affect you. If your field is open but untrained, you're vulnerable to incoming frequencies. Not malicious, just chaotic. You must learn energetic shielding. Not as protection, but as boundary. A way to maintain clarity in a world full of confusion. This isn't imagination. It's discipline. Techniques vary: breathwork, visual grids, grounding mantras. Use what resonates. The method is less important than the intention. This is my field. Only coherent thought is allowed in. Practice this daily, especially after high-output experiences, especially after crowds, especially after emotional exposure. You're not isolating. You're clarifying. Once you commit to signal hygiene, everything sharpens. Thought becomes cleaner. Intuition becomes faster. Action becomes simpler. You're no longer filtering through static. You're operating on a pure channel. And on that channel, you hear what most people miss. Over time, this clarity becomes natural. You no longer tolerate distortion. You no longer compromise your vibration. You no longer question your alignment. You become the stable receiver. Always tuned. Always clear. Next, we arrive at the destination of this entire path. What it means to live not as a thinker, but as a conscious receiver of intelligence from beyond. Let's move into that final realization. You've reached a threshold. You've moved through the illusions that bound thought to the brain. You've understood the role of dimensional frequencies. You've practiced tuning into clarity. You've learned to clean the signal, trust the reception, and recognize the source. But now comes the most powerful step of all, living it. This is no longer about moments of insight. It's not about occasional downloads or peak experiences. This is about constructing a new baseline for your existence. A way of being where dimensional thinking isn't a tool you use. It's the lens through which you live. So what does this life look like? It begins with simplicity, not mental quietness for its own sake, but clarity as your native condition. You think when it's necessary, but you no longer compulsively loop. You observe thoughts, but don't over-identify with them. You act from signal, not noise. You're not constantly seeking. You're constantly receiving. In this state, there is no strain. There's sharpness, yes, precision, movement, vision, but not the constant mental friction that most confuse with productivity. You don't force your way through decisions. You align, and the next move becomes obvious. This is what dimensional living means. You stop operating from intellect alone. You begin navigating from resonance. You sense your way into timing. You read energy like a compass. You recognize subtle cues from the field as instructions, not accidents. And as you begin trusting that feedback loop, something radical shifts. You no longer rely on logic to plan every step. You don't discard logic, but you recognize it as secondary. The primary driver becomes coherence. What feels aligned in your body? What signals confirmation in your breath? What settles your field instead of tightening it? That is the new intelligence. You also stop reacting to every piece of mental content that shows up. You no longer confuse thought activity with value. You know now that the clearest thoughts arrive through stillness, not speed. You're no longer racing to keep up with ideas. You're letting the right ones land, at the right time without strain. This changes how you interact with others. You listen more deeply because you're not just listening to words. You're listening to vibration. You hear what's being said beyond what's spoken. And when you speak, your words come from stillness, not reaction. They carry power not because they're loud, but because they're clean. In relationships, you stop entangling. You sense when energy contracts. You recognize when you're slipping into old roles or stories. You pause. You return to signal. You reset, not by trying to fix the moment, but by shifting your frequency. From that new state, connection reforms. Authentically. In work, creativity flows more fluidly. You don't stare at blank pages or force innovation. You align your system, tune your attention, and allow ideas to arrive. They always do, because the field is never empty. Only your connection to it falters when clutter returns. But now you know how to clear that clutter. Not just once, but as a discipline. You've made mental hygiene part of your energetic architecture. The need to control outcomes fades, because you've learned how this reality works. You select timelines through alignment, not anxiety. You shift probability through identity, not effort. You step into pre-existing realities with your frequency, not your logic. This isn't passivity. It's precision. Your days begin with intentional tuning, not mindless scrolling. You ask better questions. You listen more than you speak. You act only when your field is coherent. This creates an energetic trail behind you. People feel it. Opportunities find you without push. You seem lucky, but you know the truth. You're just tuned in. Challenges still arise, but now you meet them differently. You don't spiral. You don't collapse. You pause. You scan for distortion. You clear static. And then you ask the field, what signal resolves this? And then you wait until the next true thought arrives. Even your sense of identity softens. You no longer cling to who you've been. You recognize the self as fluid, malleable through vibration. This allows you to change without trauma, to evolve without resistance, to become new without apology. You don't need to explain your transformation to anyone. You are the evidence of it. You stop being a thinker trying to prove something. You become a clear receiver transmitting something greater. You realize your thoughts are no longer personal. They are service. They're designed to bring form to the formless, to give structure to the unseen. You're no longer thinking for yourself. You're thinking through yourself, on behalf of something vast. So how do you maintain this way of being? You create containers for clarity. Daily silence, non-negotiable. Body tuning through breath, movement, stillness. Signal protection, careful media, clear boundaries, energetic hygiene. Refinement, asking better questions, receiving without force. This isn't lifestyle. This is architecture. You've become a transmitter, and transmitters must stay calibrated. There will be days when the signal fades, when life pulls you into noise. That's not failure. That's the reminder. You've grown sensitive enough to feel the difference. And sensitivity is power, not weakness. You'll return faster now, because you know the path back. Silence, breath, presence, trust. And eventually, even those resets become rare, because the dimensional thinker lives inside a different current. You're no longer straining to think new thoughts. You're letting new thoughts think through you. You're not asking for guidance occasionally. You're living as guidance. And the more consistently you do this, the more power you hold. Not control, but influence. Not manipulation, but frequency impact. You become a tuning fork. Others feel your coherence and rise to match it. Not because you said something brilliant, but because you are aligned. That's the power of dimensional thought. It doesn't demand. It transmits. This isn't theory anymore. It's a lived truth. Thought is not mental. Thought is dimensional. You are not the origin. You are the receiver. And the more refined your reception, the more extraordinary your expression becomes. You're not just thinking. You are radiating intelligence across dimensions. Through your words, your presence, your action, your clarity. So now you live not in search of answers, but in resonance with them. Not pushing for outcomes, but embodying their frequency. Not building identity, but receiving it in real time from the source. You're not waiting anymore. You're tuned. And from that tuning, everything flows. Live this way, not sometimes, not on retreat. Every day, every thought, every moment. Let your life be the transmission. Let your being become the channel. The field is always broadcasting. You were born to receive. Now you're clear. Now you begin.